This video will have spoilers for God of War 1. They make that note, a direct sequel to it, so there will be mentioning events that happened within the first God of War in this video. If you're cool with that, alright, you're gonna play God of War 1. Well, pretty sure it's not available on modern platforms, so all you really can do is emulate at that point. Anywho, this is a spoiler warning. Alrighty then, alright? Let's go in. God of War 2 came out in 2007, but by this point, God of War had a reputation of being this huge, raunchy franchise, well, next to that thing's Grand Theft Auto, and how overly violent and sexual it was. And it's like, I don't know, at worst it's just they're women with bare breasts now, I guess. Yeah, there's a sex minigame, but it's like, it's so optional, I didn't even know that I could just walk back past it. So, By the way, this is a sequel that, after playing the first one, I was just super excited to see where they were going with this, because that was such a great first entry. So now we're here, the second entry. Our main premise is that after Kratos was deemed the god of war for defeating Ares in the first game, Kratos, still not having much to really live for at this point, and also not being well liked by the other Olympian gods, decides to instead find a family within the Spartan army and goes around just raiding other cities. With, in this game, him raiding Rhodes, but is warned by Athena he should probably not do that, especially since he's basically just doing the same thing that Ares was doing in the first game. Kratos ignores Athena and ends up seemingly getting betrayed by her. And while trying to fight off the Colossus of Rhodes, Zeus joins in order to assist Kratos by handing him the Blade of Olympus. But in order to power out the Blade of Olympus, it requires a god putting all their power into it, which Kratos does in order to seek victory in the Colossus of Rhodes. And this was probably one of the most blatant stuff for traps, as Zeus then takes the Sword of Olympus and with the now depowered Kratos, uses it to kill him out of fear that Kratos will one day come for him. Believing that despite the fact that Kratos has literally no motivation to care about Zeus, he believing that because Kratos has defeated a god before, he could do it again. So if he wanted to, he could kill Zeus, even though he, at this point, does not care about Zeus. So, out of pure paranoia, Kratos gets killed, and is now on the warpath to go after Zeus, with Zeus eventually creating his own self-fulfilling prophecy. And in this revenge path, Kratos ends up teaming up with the Titans. The Titans being the beings that actually fought against Zeus in the Great War, and since, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, Kratos decides to help out the Titans, especially Titan Gaia, in order to go on this warpath against Zeus. Right off the bat, so much is happening. Like, whether it be the fact that at first Kratos believes that Athena is betraying him, but it turns out it was Zeus betraying him, but make it look like he was trying to help him the entire time, kind of thing. Or just the fact that Kratos gets killed again, but this time his trip through Hades is just way more shorter. Or the narrative reasoning for why Kratos goes from being all-powerful god of war back to his mortal state by putting all his power into the Blade of Olympus, being this cool way of both gameplay and story-wise of how you get set back to level 1 again. Granted, part of me feels like Kratos didn't really need the Blade of Olympus to defeat the Colossus of Rhodes, but Kratos' strength feats in this game are kind of all over the place, where there be some things Kratos needs certain tools to open, and other times Kratos can just wrench entire things from the ground by himself and do it. So his strength feats in this game are kind of a bit inconsistent in terms of what he's able to do at one point, and then when he needs a tool in order to aid him at other points. Another thing I also like is the fact that there's now more characters for Kratos to bounce off of, whether it be Kratos meeting some of the Titans, or meeting some of the other famous Greek mythological figures as well in this journey, especially since Kratos' journey typically involves him trying to gain favor with the Sisters of Fate in order to go back in time to get revenge on Zeus. So you have other people who are also equally trying to win favor with the Sisters of Fate, so they're people competing for the same goal. The first game didn't really do that. It had a segment where you can able to see how many Spartan soldiers died because of Kratos, and they could deal with Ares in the first game. But here you get to see other people having their own motivation for why they want to turn back time and basically make things better for themselves, and they're just being incompatible with what Kratos is trying to do, so now Kratos must fight them. And just like Ares in the first game, you don't really get a whole lot of Zeus in this game. He only shows up at the beginning and end of the game, but I feel with the screen tiny do for Zeus' character, it is enough for what he needs considering his role in the story, so you didn't need a crazy amount or anything in order to be a good opponent and villain for this game. Overall, when it comes to the narrative of God of War 2, I like it way more than the first. Also helps the fact that this story feels like it's building up to its conclusion in God of War 3, where here it feels like God of War 1 was more of an open and shut case, with them even showing information that, since this game exists, highlights that probably won't come to be. So, highlights in the first game was exactly designed to have a sequel in mind, but this one is fully prepared and going in, being the setup for this massive finale when it comes to this whole entire arc within the God of War franchise. Now for the gameplay with God of War 2, so its predecessor being a combo-based action game. But one of the main things, the fact that, one, parts of Kratos' moveset have been retooled, on top of the fact that the game's prologue has you starting out with basically all of Kratos' abilities with the Blades of Athena. But he does have one carryover spell from the first game, being Poseidon's Fury. And then once you lose all your powers via putting on the power to Blade of Olympus, you also lose access to Poseidon's Fury for the rest of the game, with now the new tools you get being fully new for this game, and all being elemental based in some way, shape, or form. Now, when it comes to the new magic abilities, they exist. Like, they weren't nearly as anything useful as the previous game, although one of them is blatantly the same thing as the previous game. But some of them just felt like, once again, like, I'd rather just use the Blades of Athena over everything else, especially since in this game, the red orbs are way more limited in my experience compared to the first game, so I have to really choose what to upgrade, and I'm gonna choose the Blades of Athena as my main weapon. There are also two other main weapons you get, but again, I'd rather just use the Blades of Athena over them. And they're not bad weapons, far from it, but I just rather use the Blades of Athena. On top of the fact that there was one spell I liked, that was an earth-based one, I was like, oh, it's a cool, quick AoE attack where Kratos just stomps the ground and creates shockwaves. It's a good AoE tool. But the further I upgraded it, the further the skill morphed, not only having longer animation with Kratos now digging into the ground to throw out rocks, but just made this move I thought was a quick and cool little AoE skill, is now a much grander, slower skill, though also now often just also miss since the rocks go all over the place, so you're trying to do it against a boss, you have to be really close for it to actually hit them multiple times. So the skill that I thought would be pretty cool as a spell ended up becoming less useful the further the game went on because of how the animation morphed along with it. You also have the fact that the Gorgon eyes and the Phoenix feathers this time around are more well hidden, and by sometimes well hidden, I mean sometimes placed in BS locations. So once again, I really rather be using my main metal weapon to take up magic, and we're going to start struggling in order to have more magic as well, because the locales where you put them starts to become BS at points. There are way more boss fights in this game, and moments that were a case of, this looks cool, are now a case of, this looks cool and feels cool, because I decided to add way more gameplay aspects to their video game. Crazy concept, I know. On top of the fact I mentioned there's more boss fights, so there's just more cool set pieces with the boss fights you get to do. And this is one segment on the Pegasus, and I'm with the Blades of Athena, when this is cool, but it would have been cooler you had like a projectile, and then we could do it again. But this time, you do have a projectile. The projectile sucks, but hey, at least I got one. I won't monkey, you know what, monkey's paw? You can curl up, I don't care. My biggest gripe with this game was to go down to the puzzles. Specifically because not only are there way more puzzles in this game, it's also the fact that some of them have some solutions that I feel like are a case of, how am I supposed to know that? Or some solutions are just a massive case of, you need to do it in this specific way. We will have the right idea, but you're not doing it in the exact way developers wanted. There's one puzzle I was trying to do that I ended up solving in a slightly different way than the developers intended, and it caused it to crash. So the puzzles will become way more specific this time around, talk about having way more to them. And yeah, there's more boss fights in this game. This is the fact that I just don't like doing these puzzles in this game for the most part. Some of them are good and fine, but a lot of them are just like, do we really need to be doing this? Like, especially late in the game, where we're getting close to the finale, and the game's like, puzzle, 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 puzzle. Here's a boss fight. It's like not a puzzle, not an actual boss fight. It's a puzzle boss fight. Puzzle. It's like, oh my god, this feels like so many roadblocks. Did y'all make this freaking temple to actually be overcome, or is it just for shits and giggles? It also still has those segments like in the first game. They'll just throw on so many enemies after you back to back to back that makes you think, am I doing something wrong here? Something the environment's supposed to do? But it's like, nope, just keep going after them, keep killing them. Sure, it seems endless waves, but that's just what they want you to do, just keep going. With some of the enemies they keep throwing at you constantly, being some bigger enemies that I'm like, okay, constantly throwing these guys at me just feels like some BS. There are some segments that I see other people complain about. I think they were fine. Like one segment where you have to try and get his elevator moving, but enemies keep spawning to try and stop it. Some people complain about it being the fact of, oh, it's so ridiculously strict. And I find that strict, especially since the fact of Kratos moves the elevator fast, and by that point you have good AoE skills to deal with enemies all around you and stuff. I found stuff like that to be fine when it came to like more combat challenges, when it comes to stuff like that. Oh, there was one that was a bit obnoxious. We had to keep mashing the circle button to prevent Kronos from being crushed. And it wasn't the fact that you, the player, was doing wrong. It's just the developers wanting to do it over and over as part of the challenge because the actual gateway hasn't opened up large enough Kronos to go through. Even though based on size, Kronos could totally squeeze through, but they just want you to mash the button a lot. Which is a lot about this game, the fact that there's more QTEs and stuff. They want you to mash the buttons a lot. A really cool ability to get late in the game is the fact that the first game already had a parry of swords, so there'd be certain attacks enemies could do where you block the right timing, Kratos was immediately open up so you can counter them. But now they gave you an actual mechanic for it where perfect blocking, no matter what the attack, will have Kratos either do a counter attack or will send a projectile flying back at the enemy, and this works great for projectile enemies as well. And it also made the final boss a complete chump because the final boss couldn't fight back because, well, all mostly do is just send the projectiles, be able to throw it back at them, makes them a complete total pushover, but hindsight's 2020. One of the things that fear me puzzle-wise is the fact that you get this ability to slow down time, and I was like, ooh, we're gonna have time-based puzzle gimmicks? That's cool. But in reality, it's only when the statue with the green glowing orb is around Kratos. I do mean around. It has to be close to it or even activate it. And sometimes the game will be finicky and not activate it, but you be right next to it. And the fact that we interact with any sort of puzzle object or interactable, Kratos will immediately end the entire stop time state. So once again, it's less about, ooh, cool tough time mechanic, and more of a, it just exists to be this very specific thing that's nowhere near as fun as the idea of slowing down time for puzzles really should be, kind of thing. Like, with the idea of slowing down time for puzzles, but it feels like it's more of a, do the puzzle quickly, great, now stop time so you can go in before the door closes. And it's like, you have the ability of slowing down time, there are so many things you could do with that as a gameplay sense, but nope, it's mostly used for the same thing, so wish I could have done more with that. Instead of your power-up state being Fury of the Gods, is instead a power-up state that involves Fury of the Titans, which is a neat little detail that now is more Titan-based. Couldn't the fact your save spots say that it's the Titans give you the ability to save the game? Cool detail, cool detail. Also the fact you can now also back out of the super mode whenever you want in order to try and save the meter and stuff like that. So it's cool little addition like that. It's like, alright, you got the little touches down, and now this build is also a bit more useful since now I can choose when to exit it. Although early on there was a segment where it was for a tutorial, we had to essentially use the Rage of the Titan state in order to actually progress somewhere, and I was like, please don't let that be the entire game. Thankfully it was that one segment, but it made me worry there could be some certain parts of the game that could only be progressed if you were in the Rage of the Titan state. Overall, I like God of War 2, just not as much as the first one, and simply because the puzzle exploration bits just drag this one down and become more annoying, on top of the fact that they still have to be putting up more often compared to the first game, it feels like. So, honestly, I do like this game. I like the Blades of Athena and the rework combat for that, but your secondary ability and spells just don't feel that great to me. The exploration and puzzles fall off a cliff, so despite the fact that this one has way more interesting there, I like where it goes more, I like the boss fights here more. Overall, I thought the first game is just the better overall package when it comes to being the entire game and everything. You also the fact that this game also just carries over the exact same text issues the first game. So that's the exact same thing. So there's no subtitles for the big fancy FMV cutscenes. There's also no subtitles. Also just the same issue of the text in the background being near identical colors. So that issue got completely just carried over from the first game, and no changes were done to that. I have put up now currently a bit of Chains of Olympus, and you know that game lets you turn on subtitles for the cutscene and everything. But here, still not a thing. But overall, like I said, I like this game. I like the setup and time of the finale. The finale gets me excited for the third game. But overall, I say the first game is the better overall package when it comes to balancing out more of the stuff, even if it does fumble the fact that God of War 1 only has like 3 bosses per se. So can I say about God of War 2? Alrighty then, good day.